for my next project, I thought I would do something I'm going to call the Clockwork Garden Journal. Now I'm calling it that because Mike Deacon and his partner Ian have come up with a new digi-download set, and I love his digi-download sets, and they call it Clockwork Garden. I bought the set, and now I'm going to take it and use it to make my journal. Now I'm sort of modeling it after journals that Ian has been making, but I'm going to of course put my own spin on it. So what I have here are all the printed out, all the pages that are in the set, and actually there's quite a few pages, and you can see they have these little note cards here, and then they have tags, and then they have pockets, and another type of pocket right here. There's quite a few pages in this set, and then these are the actual pages for the signatures in the journal as well. So I printed these all out on cardstock to take a look at what they might look like, and I've gone ahead and started to design my signatures. And by the way, these are very reasonably priced, and it's a download, so you don't have to wait for them to be mailed to you. They're in PDF format, and I think it was £7.50. It works out in Canadian dollars to about $17, but I think there's 20 pages of elements. So that's really not a bad price at all, and they are high quality resolution, high resolution. So I have already made my signatures for this journal, and I have them here. Now I printed these on a heavier paper. This is not copy paper. This is actually paper I believe I bought a long time ago in a stationery store for resumes. So it's a little off-white, as you can see, and what I did was I took each of the pages that they have designed, that Ian and Mike have designed, and I've made them into my signatures. Now each signature has about 5 pages, double pages in it, so 10 pages, and they're all the same. At first I thought I'd make the signatures different according to each set, like one called Collecting Memories, and there was another one in here called Ideas, and then another one called Trust Your Heart, that kind of thing, but I decided against that, and I just mixed them all up, and I made 5 signatures. So there's quite a few signatures here. Now what I also did was I sewed the signatures down the middle of the fold with my sewing machine. I made it a little wider stitch and just went right down the center. So now they're all bound together. Now my idea is that these will be placed in the journal using a system whereby you're basically using elastic, and you can slip these underneath the elastic, and so when one set gets filled up you can take it out and you can replace it with another set as well. So that's how I'm going to do it. Now over here you can see I've started my cover. This will be a hardcover journal. I haven't made a hardcover journal in quite a while. So I have chipboard here, fairly good chipboard. I think this might be Cricut's chipboard, and I've cut a front and a back cover, and I've made them slightly bigger, as you'll see, than the signatures, so that they're about a 1/4 inch more on the side, so these won't be peeking out. You'll only see the cover, and the same at the top and the bottom as well. I've cut out my spine. Now at first I wasn't sure how big the spine should be. I had a 3/4 inch spine, I had a 1 inch spine, a 1.5 inch spine, and I have settled on a 2 inch spine, and that should be good for all of these signatures. As you can see, it'll line up with a little bit of wiggle room as well. Now I don't intend to have 3D embellishments in this because this is more of a formal type of journal. So the beauty of this journal, or the decoration of this journal, comes with the design that Mike and Ian have designed on each of their pages as well. And I will add some of the tag elements, some of the pocket elements afterwards as well. So this will be my hardcover with the spine, and I think I'm going to cover this using a white book cloth. I have some of that. That'll give it just a little bit more luxurious look to it. Now I am debating as to whether I am going to put the elastics in first. Actually, I'll need to cover the inside with some fancy paper as well, and I haven't decided excuse me, what that's going to be yet. And whether or not on the outside of the spine I want the elastic to be seen or not to be seen. Now, if I put the elastic underneath the book cloth, there will be bumps. So I have to look and see what color of elastic I have. I think I have some gold elastic that might look very nice with it. And just experiment first before I cover any of these pages to see what it would look like on the outside. So that's where I'm at right now. As with all my projects, this is an evolutionary kind of thing because I don't know what I'm doing from one step to the next. I just let it organically grow as I create it, and it will take on a life of its own. At least that's my theory. So stay tuned for the next segment. So I'm going to work on the cover right now, and I've cut my chipboard the size that I want, plus a spine piece, and I have laying face down a piece of book cloth. And on the book cloth I've drawn out where I want to put my board pieces. Now, usually I would spread glue along here. And I'm still going to spread glue, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this spray Mod Podge. I think it might be just a little neater, but I've got a brush as well to apply it. Now, this is supposed to work on everything, so I'm giving it a shot. So I'm just going to generously spray this all over the book cloth. Okay, and I'll take my brush here and smooth it out a little bit. I think I could use a little bit more over here. Okay, I'm going to lay down my spine first. And I'm trying to get this as straight as I can. Whoa, that stuck right down. Okay, now okay. Let's put this piece. Now I'm leaving a little bit of a gap, about 1/8 of an inch of a gap between the spine piece and the board, and I'm trying to keep this very straight. I think I need a little bit more glue. Seems to dry fairly fast. Okay. And the same with this piece. So, let's see here. I'm finding this glue really grabs. At least on this. I have used this type of glue before, this Mod Podge and the spray, but maybe it's because I'm using book cloth that this. I'm just going to that in there to oops. Okay, so I've got it glued down, and I'm going to put some weight on this and let it sit for probably about a half an hour to let it dry, and then I can fold in the pieces and finish that part of it off. Okay, so what I've done now is I trimmed up the book cloth. This is relatively dry. It's been sitting here for a little bit of time, for about half an hour. And I've cut off the corners so that I can fold this over and leave a nice little mitered corner on this side. So I poured some more of this Mod Podge into a little cup, so I can just brush it on, and that's what I'm going to do right now. And I'm going to start with the top and the bottom. Okay, and now we're just going to fold it over and hope it sticks. to give it a few seconds to grab, and it's not grabbing very well. Okay, this may not be the right glue to use. No, I don't like that glue at all. Okay, that's not working out very well. So, let's go to my trusty, that is if it's not dried up yet. This is Dry's Clear Glue, which never comes out of the bloody bottle. Okay. Oh shoot, I only got it out that time, didn't I? Yeah, but that's okay. I'll use my brush. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to take a cloth and sort of dab up the excess while I push the book cloth down. I'm getting a little bit of the strings, the frayed edges, but that's okay because this whole part here is going to be covered up. Let's go to this side. This is a little bit messy, this process, and it's been a while since I've done one of these kind of books, a hardcover book. Now what I should do is probably push down these parts that are in the gutter. Oops. Okay. And now I'm getting glue on everything. So let's do the edge pieces. So let's just fold that corner in a little bit. Make that a nice neat miter. Same with this one. Okay, and let's go over to this side. Hope I've got enough glue here. Not sure if I've got enough glue. I think I need a little bit more. Fingers are getting a little sticky here. Okay. All right, let's clean this up. All right, now let us I'm just going to take some of this glue and I'm just going to just go around the edges just to seal them down a little bit more. And as I said, this inside part will get covered up with some decorative book paper. Okay. Now I'm just going to let that sit and dry for a few minutes. Okay, so for my end papers on the inside of this cover, I'm going to use this piece of decorative paper, and I've already trimmed it down, and I've taken off about 1/4 of an inch all the way around so that it'll fit just inside, but it's going to cover up those folded over pieces of the book cloth. And this time I think I'm just going to use good old gel matte medium to glue this down. Try to work this fairly quickly because the book or the chipboard that I'm using seems to be absorbing the glue very fast. Thus, it's drying very fast. Okay. Just kind of blot up some of the excess here. All right. And now, lay this down and get it as even as I can. There we go. Now I do want to actually maybe do that with a bone folder carefully. I don't want to rip my paper. Just get it down into the gutters. A bone folder is a book binder's best friend. That's pretty good. Okay, and now squeegee the glue underneath out to the edges to make sure everything gets sealed well and it's nice and smooth. I'm not sure. I think may have to get some of this glue under this over here. Yeah. Okay, now I do notice with all this glue and that my chipboard, because it's absorbing the moisture from these mediums, it is starting to warp a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of wax paper, and I'm just going to lay that wax paper down on top of that, and I'm going to put my weights on it. These weights were actually weights from my old Universal way back when. All I have left is the weights. I got rid of the Universal many years ago. But these are dandy for this kind of thing. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that to dry, probably for about an hour, to make sure it's really well dried. And then I'll be back. Okay, so it's been sitting here for about an hour drying, and I've taken the weights off, and so now it's laying relatively flat. It's still very, very damp though, so I think this is going to probably take a day to really thoroughly dry. But you can see that's the inside and the outside. Now, there is some of the glue seems to be coming through, and I don't know if that'll disappear when it dries or not. I hope it does, but if it doesn't, it's okay, because I'm going to be covering this up. This is just my base, so I will be covering it up. And the next thing I have to do as well, once this is completely dry, is drill some holes in for my elastics. I have some elastic, it's not a band, elastic band, but elastic string, for lack of a better word, which is what I'm going to use to hold the signatures in, so that the signatures in this album can be removed when they get filled up and new ones put in. At least that's my theory. So that's what I'll be doing next time. So the next thing I did to the Clockwork journal was to create the outside covers. Now these are just the basic covers. So what I did was I printed out one of Mike Deacon's Digi downloads for this collection called Collecting Memories, and blew it up in Photoshop because it was smaller than this, and printed it out on the same kind of papers I used on the signatures. And then to glue it down, well, first of all, this kind of ink from my Epson printer is not waterproof. So if I put any wet mediums on this in the future, or if this gets caught out in the rain, these colors will probably run. So what I did was I let the ink dry when it came out of the printer, and then I sprayed it with a final fixative waterproofing spray. And that should protect it. It won't make it completely waterproof, but I mean, as long as you're not going to throw this in a pool of water, you should be okay. But what it will do is, if I'm going to add more, and I do intend to, three-dimensional elements on here that I might be gluing down with, say, matte medium, the matte medium is fairly wet, so it could make the colors run. So this will protect the colors from running. At least that's my theory. And on the back, I just did the same thing to it. So that's been done. Now, I have my signatures bound into the book, and how I did this was I made it like a traveler's journal. I used elastic cord, punched holes. Here's the spine, in the top and in the bottom, and ran these cords through and knotted them on the inside. Not the prettiest knot, but it will serve the purposes as the best I had available. And there are 5 signatures in here in total. And the whole idea of doing it this way is that it means that if these get filled up, new ones can be put into them. You could also slip notes or other little pieces of paraphernalia under each of these bands, and I may do that as part of the journal as well. So there are 5 signatures in here in total, and this is what it looks like from the top. Now, there's plenty of room for expansion, and I do intend to include some pockets and some tags and some other elements inside of this journal. On the back of it, what I did was I gathered together the elastics to create this pattern and just put a piece of decorative hemp cord around the center, and I'm leaving the tails long for now because I'm thinking I might attach some things to these tails, so I didn't want to cut them right off yet. So the basic journal is done. Now it's time to add elements to it and to embellish it. For example, I do want to add some pockets and some tags, as I already said, and I'm going to use the elements that come from the Digi download set. I do want to add something on this page and something on this page. Back page here, get it open. Probably it will be a pocket on one of those and possibly an envelope or something with a tag in it on the other. I don't know what yet. I will do that. And on the cover, I want to add some corner pieces, maybe some Tim Holtz corner pieces as well here that'll be dimensional, and maybe a few other things as well. So right now we have the basic journal, it's just the basic journal, finished. From here on in, we add more elements. Okay, so I've added a few elements to the inside of this journal, and what I did was I cut out, using my Cricut, Mike Deacon's digital downloads. Actually, these are Ian's, as you know, and I created this pocket, one at the front and one on the back cover, and in that I've slipped in one of these cards in each one of the pockets, and on the back of it I just doubled it over and it becomes a journaling card or whatever. In fact, there's enough room here to stick in a few extra flat things, and as I said, I did the same on the back cover. Now on the signatures, what I added, and you can see them all popping up here, I had these fancy paper clips that I think I picked up at Walmart several years ago for next to nothing, and I printed out, oops, I'm caught in my thing here, okay, I printed out and used the Cricut again to cut out these tags, which they have made as double-sided. You fold them over and you have a place to write things. On all of these elements I've inked the edges to make it stand out, and I just added a coordinating piece of ribbon to each one of these, and I used the same color on them all. And you know how I like things to hang outside of my journals when I make them. So on these you have the ribbon hanging out and you have the paper clips, and the paper clips I staggered them across 4 pages, or 4 sections. There's one in each of the signatures, and so they'll also serve, they could serve as bookmarks too, since they're portable. You just take them out and clip them onto another page. Now on the very last page and the very first page of each signature, I added these corner elements, and I added these little cards as well. Now when I cut these out, I cut them out originally on some cardstock, but it wasn't that thick, so I decided to make these a little bit thicker by just adding another piece of scrapbook cardstock to the back of them, and I inked the edges. So this is an additional place where someone could put some notes. And as I said, I put one on the back page and on the front page of each signature, so they go through each one, and I backed each one as well. So those are the elements that I've added to this booklet right now, and I'm going to add a few more things to this as well, but I think on the next segment I'm going to work on the cover. Okay, so I have finished putting the last few touches onto the cover of my journal, and what I've done is I've added these little corner pieces on here, these 2 butterflies that are in metallic-like look. They're actually plastic, but they look like metal. And then this Tim Holtz little expression on the metal bar, live the life you've imagined, and a couple of his little metal gears onto all of this as well. Now, I glued all of this down using my trusty Gorilla Glue, the Super Glue by Gorilla, which holds metal and plastic pieces down really well, and you've seen me use this before. And on the spine, remember I left those twine that I gathered the elastics together with this. And I just added, these were a couple of things in my stash of Tim Holtz things. Okay, I'm having a little trouble with that one. It's not sticking up. Okay, let's put that down. And they're just little pine cones, a couple of small ones, a couple of large ones. Just put them on there just to add another element to the journal. So the journal is now finished. Now I thought about, should I add anything more to the inside of this? I've got tags, I've got pockets with things in it and that kind of deal. But no, I think I'm done. This one is done. Now, just as an aside, I was thinking if I was ever to make one of these again, what I would do differently. Well, up here where I've punched these holes to run these through, first of all, I would look and see if I could find some more decorative type of elastic band for this, or I might just actually do an actual sewing technique for holding in the signatures. Oh, there goes my email. Sorry about that. These signatures are replaceable. Like when they fill up, you could put more in. That was the idea, sort of like a traveler's notebook idea. But there's nothing saying you couldn't sew them in permanently. And if I was to do that too, I think I would use eyelets up here where I've punched the holes through, just to give it a little bit more finished look to that. Yeah, so overall, I'm kind of pleased with this. I think it turned out pretty good. I think I could have got a few more signatures in here, and that would have filled this out a little bit more, so it would stay, not so much like it'd be a little wider, a little fuller looking. But then again, if someone was to use this, there's plenty of space for expansion to put in pictures or things like that, which would give it more thickness as well. So, that's up to the individual who uses this. The ironic part is I make them, but I never use them. I should give them away. I don't do that either. I have box loads of these things. Anyways, that's the end of this series on doing a journal, a hardcover journal, using Mike Deakins via Ian Digi Downloads. I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see what I'm going to make next time.